Chapter 5. When I get off of this mountain, I know where I want to go. Cooking is meditation with sharper tools. When your hands are busy and your concentration is cruising at 100%, your brain gets to rest. You can't doom scroll while holding a knife. What's the first thing my brother monks and I wanted to do when we got off the mountain? Chef it up. That might sound surprising coming from a bunch of freshly disrobed monks, but somewhere between meditation marathons and monastery chores, we discovered a shared passion for the kitchen. Over our free afternoons, some of us would swap stories about pre monk lives, meals and dinner parties, chili competitions, backyard steak and veggie barbecues, and my love of making a deeply satisfying, long simmering bolognese or pan seared, crispy skinned steelhead with a miso orange juice and soy glaze. I imagined Josh, ever the aesthetic, confessing a preference for champagne and caviar, claiming to have once paired vintage Dom with truffle popcorn at a screaming of La Dolce Vita. I could easily see that. Emiliano, from Mexico City, talked about making mole from scratch and deeply spiritual process of pressing tortillas by hand. I recall the time I attempted to make pad thai and failed spectacularly. That went into the trash faster than junk mail. The universe has a sense of humor. In Theravada Buddhism, as I've mentioned, monks aren't allowed to cook. Ever. So, there we were, culinary romantics in robes, forbidden from touching a wok. The Dhamma giveth, the Dhamma taketh away. As our time on the mountain wound down, the idea of meals beyond the admittedly wonderful monastery fare began to feel downright erotic in a food porn sort of way. I floated an idea. We'd take a cooking class once we were back in Chiang Mai. Several guys lit up at the thought, laughing over hot walks, recreating the curries and noodles we'd loved, reclaiming our foodie identities. But like most post retreat intentions, the fantasy faded. Our brotherhood scattered with the wind. Some went home, one went kayaking, one headed to Cambodia, two flew south to the Dhammakaya Center near Bangkok. In the end, there were only three of us who opted for a cooking school adventure: me, Josh, and Emiliano. Champagne, mole, and barbecue, reunited in an apron clad act of karmic balance. I was the first of our not so motley monk squad to leave the monastery. I checked out a couple of days early, partly for logistical reasons, partly because my soul had reached its Dhamma quota. There's only so much introspection and robes I can take before I start fantasizing about sharp knives mincing garlic, profanity over a stubbed toe, and a spider free shower. And I had a mission, a secular one: find a cooking class, but not just any cooking class. I wasn't about to spend my afternoon chopping carrots while pretending we were on some culinary adventure. I didn't want an urban churn and burn operation where the ingredients are pre measured, the aprons are social media ready, and the big achievement is sauteing a few token dishes before posing next to a wok like you've earned a Michelin star. No, thank you. I wanted the real deal: fire, flavor, power over protein and produce. A pestle and mortar workout. I also wanted a Thai chef who ran the kitchen like a battlefield commander. Something raw, hands on, and just far enough off the tourist grid that would stick with me. Less selfie, more soul. So, I did what I always do in these situations. I asked people, specifically strangers who looked like they could cook. Don't ask me how, I just know. There was the woman at a cafe with a cookbook open, taking notes. Obvious choice. Or locals in the veggie section choosing obscure produce. Always a good sign. Concierges with no skin in the game, and jackpot. Two sweaty, soot smudged chefs I found out back, basting suckling pigs and a goat on rotisseries while having smokes in the alley. Targets acquired. Interviews ensued. The Chiang Mai Thai Farm Cooking School was the clear winner. The office was vacant when I arrived. I rang the bell as instructed by a little laminated sign taped to the counter. Nothing. I rang again. Still nothing. Finally, a door in the back creaked open, and out came a gruff, flushed woman dressed in clothes that looked better suited to mucking at a horse stall than managing a hospitality desk. She barked several unexpected words and phrases that caught me off guard. Then she apologized. She'd been expecting someone else. She shifted into business mode and pulled out a ledger with all the warmth of a customs officer having a bad day. I mentioned that I was booking for myself and two others, my brother monks. Her eyebrows shot up like I just told her I was signing up a trio of cloistered Capuchin friars for a Muay Thai class. That kicked off what felt like a vetting interview. She peppered me with questions about our motivations, our experience, how serious we were, which was interesting. I didn't realize one needed credentials to chop ginger and peppers, julienne, basil, and sling a wok. Isn't that the point of signing up? You get to wield a knife and pretend you're in a food travel docuseries. Well, someone lectures about the importance of your mise en place. When she asked if I had ever cooked before, it was clear she didn't think I could handle the class. Maybe it was the monk thing, or maybe I just looked like a guy more likely to burn water than slow braise shanks. But I smiled and quietly explained that, back home, I cooked almost every night. I was missing cooking, missing it deeply. It's been long one of my love languages, something I approached with reverence, equal parts awareness and indulgence. For me, it wasn't just about feeding people, it was about honoring ingredients, sharing love, and creating edible beauty. I cooked for family, friends, lovers, and neighbors, with wine in my glass and music in the air. For quiet dinners and raucous backyard parties alike. My favorite question on any given morning: Hey, honey, what are you craving? Sure, I love grilling a perfect grilled cheeseburger or hot dog. What red blooded guy doesn't? Vegans don't count. But if you were craving something more elevated, say creamy chanterelle risotto with fall off the bone veal ossobuco, a silky French omelette, or homemade crepes stuffed with sauteed Dungeness crab and a whisper of citrus, I was your guy. I've slow braised beef bourguignon for 9 hours because that's how long it takes to taste like winter in a French farmhouse. I've roasted ribs to sticky perfection, crispied chicken skin to holy status, and simmered pho broth that could give you a mouthgasm. Duck a l'orange? Easy. Beef Wellington so good Gordon Ramsay might sit down and say thank you? Need prime ribeyes seared to a crusted medium rare with roasted garlic and minted green beans? Mashed potatoes so rich that Joel Robuchon himself would nod. Naturally. Shrimp fried rice? Dim sum? Yakisoba? Wok-seared vegetables? Just point me to the kitchen and get out of my way. In other words, yeah, I can cook. Not follow a recipe cook, cook. As I was blathering on, another staff member came out of the back and sat at a desk going over some paperwork. We ended up talking about food for much longer than I wanted to. I hadn't eaten breakfast. I was famished and increasingly frustrated. At one point, I asked about the knives we'd be using. I'm a stickler for sharp knives, and mine are kept razor sharp at all times. When you love to cook, your knives are your religion. She handed me my receipt, turned on her heel, and disappeared back into her office without another word. For a brief moment, I seriously considered canceling and finding a different school. But the reviews were so good, glowing even. How could this be the vibe? Was it because I'd refused to pay via PayPal? The sketchy, unsecure link in the email they sent me to the proceed to payment screen had identity theft written all over it. No way was I going to feed my bank card into some unsecured black hole on the other side of the planet so it could end up on a spreadsheet in a hacker's group chat. The farm provided transportation as part of the program, so that all I had to worry about was being ready at my hotel, upright, caffeinated, and waiting outside at the appointed time. Josh and Emiliano, my fellow recently civilized brother monks, converged at my hotel early that sunny morning. Our reunion, sans robes and back in street clothes, was exuberant. Big hugs, big laughs, and strong coffees all around. We were ready to throw down in a Thai kitchen. Our guide, Maud, was pretty but fierce, sharp eyed with the energy to run a kitchen or a presidential campaign. She took charge as we headed to the Ruamchuk market, a locals and chef haunt at the city's edge, rarely touched by tourists. At the stalls, Maud flipped into sensei mode. 12 varieties of rice, short, medium, long grain, red, white, black, yellow, regular, and sticky, stacked like minimalist art. She explained when to use each, moisture retention, germ polishing, and how all the shapes, texture, and taste. Then came a chili masterclass: how to spot, handle, and survive the fire, and a rundown of curry pastes: green, red, yellow, Panang, and Masaman. Our assignment? Make curry paste from scratch. We'd pick from a menu of options, gather ingredients at the farm, and grind our own paste using mortar and pestle the traditional way. I'd never done that before and was genuinely excited to learn. I bought a little bag of freshly fried grasshoppers to share. And no, they're not gross. They're crunchy, nutty, a little sweet and savory. And if you're into hot french fries dipped into chocolate shakes, you'd love them. They are weirdly addictive. Stop with the faces. They pair beautifully with beer and watching the faces of the squeamish. Recaffeinated and munching on fried grasshoppers, we wound through narrow rural roads. Lush greenery stretched out: banana, coconut, tamarind trees, playing checkerboard with vegetables and fruit plots. Rural, local, and alive just outside the city. The cooking school sat on a gated farm 30 minutes from Chiang Mai. It was lush, quiet, undeniably gorgeous. We piled out, still buzzing from the market, handed aprons and hats, the full tourist kit. Charming, kitschy, mildly humiliating. The open air dining area was rustic but inviting. Long wooden tables, hanging plants, with an occasional cat inspecting our feet. Nearby, the classroom, a U shaped setup that housed 12 cooking stations, each compact and organized with prep boards, stone mortar and pestles, bowls, utensils, and high BTU 2 burner gas stoves. One for pots, one for woks. Clean, ready, whispering potential. Like a low budget, high passion cooking show. Maud pointed me to a station with a gleaming cleaver. I tested the edge. Sharp enough to earn respect, or seal a cut with superglue. I nodded thanks, received a Y and a smile. I was good to go. Before cooking, we toured the farm's manicured paths, more botanical garden than production space. Exotic fruit trees, hedgerows, and natural dividers created order without sacrificing beauty. Everything organic? A bonus I hadn't expected. We passed veggie beds of onions, root vegetables, tiny pea sized Thai eggplants, and larger green ping pong ball like ones. Then rhizomes, dense rows of galangal and ginger, edible flowers for flavor, garnish, and dye, chili bushes in every stage of firepower, groves of pandan, tamarind, kaffir lime, lush, efficient, deeply Thai. Back at the stations, sleeves rolled, I tackled Tom Kha Gai, the creamy, herbaceous sour soup, and Gang Kiao Wan, classic green curry. I knew Tom Kha well, but wanted to deepen my connection with fresh ingredients harvested minutes before. The soup came together joyfully. I plucked kaffir lime leaves, double lobed like nature's quotation marks, from a tree nearby. Their fragrance made your shoulders drop in relaxation. Add galangal and crushed lemongrass, and the steam smelled like herbal balm for the soul. Tom Kha Gai means boil, galangal chicken. Back home, Finding fresh galangal is impossible. Ginger's a poor substitute. Here, I had the real deal. I took a nibble. That was a freaking huge mistake. A searing astringency exploded in my mouth, followed by earthy heat and carrot like sweetness that smacked me in the face. My sinuses blew open like I'd snorted powdered wasabi. Josh and Emiliano looked alarmed as I red facedly signaled I was fine, while discreetly spitting the fibrous mess into my palm. Maud checked out my Gullingull fiasco, offering a knowing smile and a bottle of water. You don't eat galangal, she said gently. It's just for flavor. We don't chew it once it's cooked. Noted. Unlike ginger, my usual cooking snack, galangal isn't nibble friendly. Lesson learned. Painfully. But now I understood the flavor spectrum that makes a Tom Kha Gai sing. Once recovered, prep and cooking went smoothly, though Maud raised an eyebrow when she saw me finally slicing 3 bird's eye chilies instead of 1 or 2. What can I say? I like spice. I stirred, tasted, adjusted. Perfect Tom Kha Gai. I was tempted to slurp the whole bowl, but curry paste awaited. Learning to create curry paste from raw ingredients using just a stone mortar and pestle fascinated me. At home, I lean on store bought pastes for convenience. But this? Old school elbow grease, hand crushing, pure passion. Yep, ladies, I'm one hell of a date. I'd chosen green curry for Kiang Kiao Buan. Others made red, Penang, or Masaman. I wanted to try them all, but time's a cruel chef. The air pulsed with rhythmic pock, pock, pock of pestles on mortars. Ginger, galangal, lemongrass, garlic, shallots, coriander root, holy basil, chilies, all pulverized into aromatic pastes. A spicy percussion session pounded a scent heavy symphony. Maud circled, checking consistency. When she nodded at my paste, which looked like a cookbook photo, I felt absurdly proud. Then the fires were lit. I grabbed the wok. I love a good wok and use them regularly. I know how to tame the beast. Read its heat, stir, toss. But this setup made me giddy. The burner cradled a rounded wok base, fired by a double ring gas element, delivering true wok high, the legendary smoky sear that no other pan can create. Back home, the stovetops don't accommodate round bottom woks, so we have to settle for flats. They work, but can't match the authentic sizzle when ingredients leap and kiss the blazing metal with a fresh sear. When the pan hit white hot, steel smoking in curls, I added oil. It shimmered and danced a perfect slippery seal. Then came the vegetables, chicken, prawns, each tossed in stages, seared, set aside. The wok reheated, flavors layered like a kitchen symphony. Wok sizzled and clanged all around. Metal spatulas banging, flames roaring. Hot, loud, frenetic, and absolutely gorgeous. With our first 2 dishes done, everyone riding high on the aroma of victory, it was lunchtime. The farm staff had laid out platters of steamed jasmine rice, obviously knowing some of us, me, had gone chili crazy and needed a tamper. We gathered, passing plates, trading notes, low key hoping someone else's curry was worse than ours. I was proud. Tom Kagai and Gang Kiao Wan, though I doubled the chili count. Green bird's eye for snap, red for sweet burn. Not see you in another dimension spicy, but not shy either. No casualties, thankfully. Everyone who braved my creations confirmed. Yes, edible. Yes, hot enough for some introspection. One British guy mopped his forehead, declared it brilliant, then promptly piled more rice on his plate. That's the rice's job: flavor sponge and fire extinguisher. Capsaicin broke the ice. Compliments flew, spoons clinked, and dish swapping began. We'd begun that morning, but now we were bonded. Sweet, spice, mortar and pestle camaraderie. Plates circled as we all tasted each other's masterpieces. Maud kept an eye on me all day, especially when I was back at my station after the break, turning carrots into ultra thin matchsticks for my third dish fried spring rolls. Now, spring roll filling usually calls for something delicate, like a nikiri blade, more an ultra thin cleaver than the butcher sized weapon they'd handed me. One knife per station, though, so I made do with my gleaming cleaver. It was like trying to fillet an anchovy with a katana. She watched, eyes narrowing. Was that admiration? Approval? When I finished, she gave me a broad smile and a thumbs up. Nice work, she said, like I'd just pulled off a culinary miracle, not hacked away with a blade better suited for splitting beef spines. Awkward? Sure. But fun, like driving a big truck in a tight parking lot. Clumsy but satisfying. My matchsticks were a tad thinner than I'd intended. I got carried away trying to wield my one blade to rule them all. But at least I didn't chop off any fingers, which I considered solid progress, especially after the Gullinkle debacle. Back to spring rolls. I've always loved making them at home, but the wraps usually puffed up into third degree blisters instead of crisp golden perfection. Turns out, I'd been doing it all wrong. First mistake? Vegetable oil. Cheap and convenient? Sure, but not the frying oil of champions. And don't ask about the oil temperature. I was cranking the heat so high my kitchen doubled as a smoke sauna. An oil thermometer should have been on my Christmas list years ago, considering I have every other tool on the planet. Maud, ever the patient teacher, found me hovering over my flaming pan with that worried look. Too hot, she said deadpan. Drop the temp and give the rolls time to crisp without burning. 360 is where you want it. At the school, they used peanut oil. Not my usual choice given the saturated fat content, but Maud gave the thumbs up for canola as a substitute if you keep temps in check. She also schooled me on fryer etiquette. Don't crowd the pan, flip rolls when they hit that perfect golden glow, and ditch the paper towels. Use a wire rack instead so oil drains off and your rolls don't turn into soggy, sad sacks. So, that's my spring roll redemption story. The right oil, the right temp, and some patience. Who knew crispy greatness hinged on so little? Obviously, not me. Now, if only I could stop them from erupting into mini oil geysers the first bite. It's still a walk in progress. Last up was mango or banana with sticky rice and sweet coconut milk, and is Thailand's answer to what's for dessert? This dish is so ubiquitous, it's almost mandatory at every meal. When the chef wants to get fancy, they dye the rice a vibrant forget me not blue with butterfly pea flowers. The farm had fresh patches of those flowers, so our blue rice was the freshest and most eye popping I've ever seen. And yes, it tasted as good as it looked. By the time class ended, I was riding high on flames, cleavers, and culinary victory. But the ride back to town was subdued. Josh, Emiliano, and I had bonded over Dhamma up the mountain, then walks and herbs, sharing food and laughter. But reality was creeping in. Goodbyes loomed. Back at the hotel, we decided to extend the day with a night market crawl. We rounded up other brothers now down from the mountain and hit the labyrinth of brightly lit carts. Laughter bounced in the humid air as we grazed like kings of the street. It was surreal and would be our last meal together, not as monks, but as travelers who'd shared much more. Bittersweet hung heavy in my heart. One by one they peeled off. A train here, flight there. 10 Jane Y stuck around the longest before disappearing into the night. I stood amid the crowds on Wua Lei Walking Street, alone but full of gratitude for what we'd shared. Back at the hotel, stuffed with food and swirling emotions, I poured myself a few fingers of Johnny Walker Black and opened my laptop to a streaming service. The first thing on the screen, Anthony Bourdain's A Cook's Tour, Thailand episode. How prescient. Instantly, I was transported into his world, following his journey through food and culture. The departure of my friends was a brutal reminder. Impermanence is a cruel, insightful bitch. Nothing stays the same forever. I drifted off to sleep, dreaming of my next adventure.